It happened while I was on my way back to the room from the restroom.
Grandma, wait a minute.
Lily came rushing out of Robert's room. She had a look on her face as if she had been waiting for me for years. What is it? What's wrong?
I can't explain here. We need to go somewhere private.
Lily grabbed my hand and, without another word, led me outside the building. She didn't stop until we reached the courtyard. There wasn't a single other soul in the garden.
This should be fine.
Still catching her breath, Lily pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her right pocket and handed it to me.
Grandma, we have to do something before it's too late.
Her hands were trembling as she gave it to me. It was written in Robert's handwriting.
Our lives, yours and mine, are in danger. It's Emma's boyfriend. It seems he's in financial trouble with his company and is after the insurance money. I might be next, and after that, he could go after you, Michelle. Don't worry about me. Just take Lily and get out of here.
I read it over and over again, but the contents were so shocking and far-fetched that it took me a long time to process it. Lily, what is this? What's going on? Lily was still shaking.
After the man who said he was the head of this facility came to see Grandpa, Grandpa gave me this note. And that director guy, he gave me such a creepy vibe. He kept smiling at us in this really eerie way.
Lily, it's okay. I'm here now. Let's go back and talk to Grandpa about this.
No, I don't want to go back in there.
Lily was resolute, refusing to budge. But I couldn't leave without saying anything to Robert, so I told Lily to wait outside the facility while I went back inside.
Well, Mom, I brought in the laundry and folded it for you.
Oh, thank you. My name is Michelle Miller. I used to live with my husband, Robert, who has mild dementia, my daughter Emma, who returned home after a failed marriage, and her daughter, Lily, the four of us together. However, Robert has already moved into a care facility because he didn't want to be a burden on us, so now it's just the three of us. Even though Robert's dementia is still in the very early stages, with only mild symptoms, he decided to leave mostly on his own. I understand he did it for the sake of the family, but when I think about his mental fatigue, it weighs heavy on my heart. All I can do now is hope that the progression of his dementia slows down. And if possible, I'd love for the four of us to live together again. As for my daughter Emma, although she came back after her marriage ended, it doesn't seem like it was too bitter of a breakup. In fact, it seemed to end on relatively good terms. This may sound a bit biased, but Emma grew up to be quite a capable and lovely woman, and thanks to her, she manages to balance taking care of the houses while working part-time. Maybe because of Emma's influence, her daughter Lily, who's just coming of age, has grown up to be kind and resilient. Watching Lily grow has become the joy of my life, and nothing makes me happier than that.
I'm heading out to visit Dad now, so take care of things here, okay?
Sure, tell Dad I said hi. I can't visit Robert as often as Emma does. The reason is my chronic illness. It's worsened a bit over the last few years, and there are more and more days when I can't move around as much as I'd like. In my place, Emma has been going to visit him almost every day. While I worry about burdening her, a part of me feels relieved that I can rely on her. If someone like me, an old woman with weak bones, were to go out every day, it's easy to imagine how much everyone would worry. In that sense, having someone younger like Emma or Lily visit removes that concern. I'm sure Robert would also be happier to see Emma or Lily rather than my face, which he's seen for decades. But there is one thing that concerns me. Ever since she was little, Emma has had a hard time with her strict dad. And now she goes to visit him so eagerly. It was the same just a moment ago. So far I had decided that I was probably overthinking things, but I was still concerned. "Hey, Emma." I called out to Emma, who was already by the front door, ready to leave.
What's up?
"Well, nothing. I was just thinking how much you've changed. You used to complain so much about how you couldn't stand your dad, and now you seem like you're actually enjoying yourself."
Is that all? Well, I'm not a kid anymore. And now that Dad's the way he is, he's not scary at all. And something good happened recently.
"Something good?"
I got a boyfriend.
The words were so sweet and unexpected that I almost felt my teeth, dentures, and even implants lift right out of my mouth. But of course, it wasn't a bad thing. "Oh, I see. Well, make sure you take it slow this time."
I know.
With that, Emma headed out the door. One afternoon, as the late sun poured into the house, I enjoyed some peaceful time alone. I was sipping my favorite herbal tea and nibbling on my favorite cookies, flipping through a book, enjoying a quiet, ordinary moment. Emma had gone off to her part-time job before lunch, and Lily had been at school since morning. With the housework mostly done, all that was left was to wait for them to come home. Just then, I noticed a strange smell coming from my herbal tea. It was a smoky, almost roasted scent that I immediately knew didn't belong in the steam rising from the cup. I looked around the room and realized that wasn't the only unusual thing. Smoke, thick enough to see, was drifting toward me from the dining room. The moment I stood up in shock, my consciousness slipped away.
Grandma, can you hear me? Grandma!
I felt like someone was calling me right by my ear, but I couldn't open my eyes. My mind was foggy, and everything was unclear. What happened? Unable to respond to the voice, I drifted back into sleep. Suddenly, my mind became clear. I could hear the noise around me distinctly. Voices, the electronic beeping of machines, and the sharp clanging of something metallic echoed around me. After a while, I finally managed to open my eyes, and the first thing I saw was Lily's face.
Grandma! Oh, thank goodness, you're awake. I'll go get the doctor.
Though I couldn't see clearly, it looked like her eyes were red and swollen. Her voice sounded stuffy, as if she'd been crying. I must have really worried her. When I turned my head to the side, I saw someone else sitting there, face flushed.
Mom, are you okay?
"I'm fine, but what happened?" My memory cut off from that peaceful afternoon. I glanced out the window and saw that the sun had completely set. For it to be this dark at this time of year, I must have been asleep for quite some time, but my memory was blurry, and I couldn't recall anything.
Well, Mom, you collapsed at home. Lily found you when she got back from school and called an ambulance to bring you here. I'm so sorry. It's my fault.
So, this is a hospital. Now that I took a closer look, it was obvious. All the noises I'd been hearing before made sense now. The cold beeping sound came from right above my head. But what does she mean by, because of me? "Emma, calm down. I'm fine for now. But what do you mean by it's your fault? You weren't even home today, right?"
It's because I wasn't home. I left the fish grilling and completely forgot about it. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that.
Slowly, the haze in my memory cleared. Now that I think about it, besides the herbal tea, I remember smelling something burning. That must have been the smell of the fish burning in the grill. So, I must have passed out from carbon monoxide poisoning. Still, for Emma to forget about the fish she was grilling, it's so unlike her, usually so dependable. She's usually so reliable and would never make such a simple but potentially life-threatening mistake. Thank goodness Lily found me in time, but the thought of what could have happened if I had stayed unconscious for hours sent a chill down my spine.
I really want to say more about this, but I'm not in the mood right now. For now, just be sure to thank Lily.
As we were talking, Lily returned with the doctor and a nurse. Sure enough, her eyes were swollen and red. Thankfully, the doctor said there were no lasting effects on my body. I finally felt a wave of relief wash over me. I'm not as young as I used to be. Even a small issue could easily turn into something serious at my age. Right now, all I can do is be grateful to Lily. Thank you, Lily. If you hadn't saved me, things could have gone much worse.
I'm just glad you're okay. I was really worried. Mom, please be more careful and don't let this happen again.
I'm really sorry.
At that moment, a thought suddenly crossed my mind. Could Emma have early onset Alzheimer's? Just like Robert, it's not impossible that it could be hereditary. I desperately hoped I was wrong, but the idea seemed to explain everything too well, and I felt a deep sense of guilt for even thinking it. A few days later, my body, which had collapsed from carbon monoxide poisoning, started to recover without any major issues. Even my chronic illness seemed to ease up, so I decided to visit Robert for the first time in a while.
It's been a while since we've gone out together, Grandma.
You're right, it has been. Today was a day off, and since Emma was at work, Lily and I took the bus and walked to the care facility. Long time no see, Robert. How are you doing? Do you still remember me?
Don't be ridiculous. Of course, I remember you.
I was relieved to see he still understood jokes. The care facility was as beautiful as ever, so much so that it felt more like a mansion. The view from the window was lovely. There wasn't much to see in particular, but being on a slight hill gave us a great view of the town below. In the courtyard, several elderly people were enthusiastically playing croquet. I'm sure they all had their own difficult circumstances for being here, but you wouldn't guess it from their lively energy.
Lily, it's been a while. Thanks for coming. Hey, have a seat.
In a room adorned with tasteful, understated decorations, the three of us, Lily, Robert, and I, engaged in lively conversation. In his younger years, Robert had been incredibly stubborn, but ever since he was diagnosed with dementia, that stubbornness had almost entirely faded away. In fact, in front of Lily, he practically melted. It made me realize people really do change. It happened while I was on my way back to the room from the restroom.
Grandma, wait a minute.
Lily came rushing out of Robert's room. She had a look on her face as if she had been waiting for me for years. What is it? What's wrong?
I can't explain here. We need to go somewhere private.
Lily grabbed my hand and, without another word, led me outside the building. She didn't stop until we reached the courtyard. The people playing croquet earlier had left, and there wasn't a soul in sight.
This should be fine.
Still catching her breath, Lily pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her right pocket and handed it to me.
Grandma, we have to do something before it's too late.
Her hands were trembling as she gave it to me. It was written in Robert's handwriting.
Our lives, yours and mine, are in danger. It's Emma's boyfriend. It seems he's in financial trouble with his company and is after the insurance money. I might be next, and after that, he could go after you, Michelle. Don't worry about me. Just take Lily and get out of here.
I read it over and over again, but the contents were so shocking and far-fetched that it took me a long time to process it. Lily, what is this? What's going on? Lily was still shaking.
After the man who said he was the head of this facility came to see Grandpa, Grandpa gave me this note. And that director guy, he gave me such a creepy vibe. He kept smiling at us in this really eerie way.
Lily, it's okay. I'm here now. Let's go back and talk to Grandpa about this.
No, I don't want to go back in there.
Lily was resolute, refusing to budge. But I couldn't leave without saying anything to Robert, so I told Lily to wait outside the facility while I went back inside. Robert, I saw the note. Is it true? Robert's wrinkled face tightened, and he glanced around nervously, as if checking his surroundings. It seemed clear that he truly believed what he was saying.
Yeah, it's true. I know it sounds strange coming from someone with dementia, but I can still remember that conversation. It's stuck in my head and won't go away.
Something about his words bothered me, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was.
Anyway, forget about me. Take Lily and get out of here. Come back when things cool down, but until then, you need to hide somewhere.
I could tell right away that he wasn't lying or joking. His voice was that of someone genuinely gripped by fear. Not long after Lily and I got home, Emma returned from her part-time job. She seemed to be in an unusually good mood. Compared to the terror Lily and I had just faced at the care facility, her upbeat mood felt worlds apart.
Thanks for going to see Dad today. I really appreciate it.
It's no problem.
Oh, by the way, my birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks, right? I'm going to bring my boyfriend over, the one I told you about before, so please make sure to give him a warm welcome.
I almost instinctively blurted out a denial, but stopped myself just in time. This wasn't the moment to make a scene. I wasn't ready to fully believe Robert's words yet, but after hearing his intense confession, I couldn't help but feel suspicious. I realized I needed to take some kind of action. I frantically thought it over and finally came to a conclusion. I would hire a private investigator to find out what kind of person Emma's boyfriend really was. That was the most I could do at my age. All right. The next day, I went straight to the detective agency. My request was simple. I wanted them to investigate Emma's boyfriend. I figured that if I mentioned Robert's dementia, they might turn me away at the door, so I decided to leave that part out. Besides, this information wasn't directly relevant to the core of the investigation.
We understand. The investigation will take about a week to 10 days. Is that acceptable?
If it's no longer than 10 days, we should be fine. I felt a small sense of relief. Yes, that's perfectly fine. Thank you.
Great. We'll be in touch. May I have your contact information?
Afterward, I headed to the police station. To be honest, I didn't expect much from this visit. I had no real idea how things worked, but I figured that if an elderly person suddenly showed up claiming their life was in danger, they probably wouldn't be taken seriously. However, my expectations were pleasantly surprised.
Can you tell us more about the situation?
I felt some reassurance here as well, but I still didn't go into detail about Robert's situation. I was afraid they might dismiss it, thinking it was just his dementia.
Understood. It may be difficult to take immediate action based solely on this information, but if anything happens, please contact us right away.
I couldn't help but wonder how they would have reacted if they knew the claim came from someone with dementia. The thought made me uneasy. 8 days later, on a rainy day, I found myself at the detective agency once again.
First, we've identified Emma's boyfriend. His name is Tom Harrison. Does that name sound familiar to you?
I thought for a moment, but couldn't recall anything.
Well, he's the director of a local care facility, but we uncovered some disturbing things about him.
As she spoke, she pulled out some photos. A care facility director. I immediately retracted my earlier response. It felt like the dots were finally connecting into a single line. What should have been a satisfying realization instead filled me with a deep, unsettling dread.
There's suspicion that he's been using the facility's funds for personal expenses.
More bad news, as if to add insult to injury. In that moment, my doubts turned into certainty.
We are planning to provide this information to the police. What do you think, Michelle?
Yes, I have no problem with that. Please take care of everything. And then, the day of reckoning arrived. As Emma had mentioned earlier, she brought her boyfriend to our home. I decided it wouldn't be appropriate for Lily to be present, so I had her wait at the care facility where Robert was. But I wasn't just having her wait. I set up a phone call between my smartphone and hers, allowing her to listen to everything that happened. In case anything went wrong, she was ready to call for help.
Hello. Actually, this isn't the first time we've met. I'm Tom Harrison, the director of the Smile Care Facility. It's nice to formally meet you.
There's no mistake. My suspicions had been confirmed. This man, Tom, was the one responsible for all the fear we'd been living in, and we had all the evidence against him. I couldn't possibly welcome him into our home. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
What?
What do you mean? Did I do something wrong?
Now I understood what Lily had meant by his creepy smile. He had a terrifying smile, as if he could see right through me. But I couldn't back down now. You're up to something bad, aren't you? I've got the evidence.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Accusing me out of nowhere. What a warm welcome.
Since he continued to feign innocence, I pulled out the documents I had prepared. They were undeniable proof of his wrongdoing. If you turn yourself in now, the punishment might be lighter, but if you keep denying it, I'll call the police myself. Emma, clueless about what was happening, watched us in stunned silence as the tension between us grew.
What's this? You've gone to all this trouble, preparing these papers, just to run your mouth while I've been trying to be nice.
Finally, his mask slipped. Now, I could only rely on Lily and wait.
Fine. I'm tired of pretending. Let me tell you a little secret. Emma was the one who tried to kill you for the insurance money.
What are you talking about? Even at this point, Tom was trying to throw me off by saying something outrageous.
You collapsed from carbon monoxide poisoning, right? Emma did that on purpose.
I silently shifted my gaze to Emma's face, and her expression was tense. After raising a child for so many years, I could tell. That was the look of someone hiding something. This can't be true.
No, Mom, it's not like that.
She's head over heels for me. She'll do anything I tell her. That time, I casually mentioned how if you were gone, Robert would be the beneficiary of the insurance. And guess what? She actually tried to get rid of you. Cold, isn't it?
This must be the creepy smile Lily talked about. How twisted and ugly it is. But that wasn't the main issue. The accident had been Emma's doing. It's a hard story to believe, but Tom didn't seem to be lying. In fact, it felt like the one hiding the truth was Emma. At the time, I worried that Emma might have early onset Alzheimer's, but if it was truly intentional, how terrifying that would be. I was so paralyzed with fear that for a while, it felt like time had completely stopped, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't think, speak, or even breathe.
Well, you do look surprised. I guess I can't blame you. Poor mother.
I'm sorry, Mom.
She broke down in tears, trembling in confusion. Her face was contorted, and she cried uncontrollably, without caring who saw her.
They really weren't kidding when they said love is blind. How pathetic.
Each word he threw out hit a nerve, one after another. In the frozen moment of time I found myself in, fury and hatred swirled together inside me like a storm. At that moment, the doorbell rang, and the time that had been frozen inside me began to flow again, allowing me to finally move. On the intercom monitor were two men in navy blue uniforms. One of them was the officer who had kindly listened to me that day. It seemed Lily had done her job well.
What do you want? I haven't done anything.
We received a report that a suspect involved in embezzlement was making threats. You're Tom Harrison, right? Could you come with us to the station for questioning?
No way. It's voluntary, isn't it? If you're taking anyone, take her. She's the one who tried to kill her own mother.
Is that so? Even if that were true, how would you know about it?
Foolishly, Tom had dug his own grave.
And by the way, this isn't voluntary. This is an arrest warrant. Your name is right here.
The private investigator had clearly covered all the bases. With the tables turning from 2 against 1 to 2 against 3, I finally felt the grip of fear begin to loosen.
8:35 p.m. You're under arrest for embezzlement.
Yet, my heart wouldn't stop pounding. The weight of the situation was still hammering in my chest, reminding me of how terrifying it all had been.
And we'd also like to ask you about the attempted murder, so please come with us as well.
Emma was still crouched on the floor, sobbing. She couldn't bear the weight of her guilt anymore. After all, she had tried to take her own mother's life. It was no surprise. But what was Emma thinking when she decided to go through with the plan? Did she really believe that being manipulated into attempting a crime and then failing would somehow absolve her of guilt? I suppose she did. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so carefree, talking about introducing her boyfriend. I now painfully realized my failure as a parent. I never thought my daughter could be this foolish. Then, something suddenly clicked. I remembered Emma's first words when I was rushed to the hospital. So that's what her "I'm sorry" meant back then. How are you liking your new place?
Oh, it's not bad. If anything, I just feel bad for making things a bit harder for you.
It's really not much different. It's just the train instead of the bus.
Is that so?
After that incident, Robert was moved to a new care facility. It was the obvious choice. As Robert said, the new care facility is a bit farther than the previous one, but the peace of mind it brings makes the extra distance insignificant. However, for some reason, Robert's condition seemed to progress more slowly than before, and the doctor even mentioned that he might eventually be able to live at home again. If Robert and I can watch Lily grow up together, there would be no greater happiness. However, I didn't want to cause unnecessary worry, so I haven't told Robert anything about Emma. The unfortunate part is that Lily found out the truth. Even though I couldn't think of any other way, I never imagined such a terrible truth would be revealed.
It's okay. Grandma, you're still here with us.
Even so, she responded with remarkable courage. Later, I heard from the detective agency that Tom, the subject of the investigation, had been formally charged with embezzlement and conspiracy to commit murder. And Emma, suspected of attempted murder, is currently being held in custody. Honestly, I still haven't fully processed the shock. Putting my own situation aside, when I thought about Lily being left alone in the not-too-distant future, my heart ached. That's why, at the very least, I feel I must stay healthy until she finds a partner in life, and now I take care of my health in every possible way, so that Robert and I can spend as much time as possible with Lily together.